Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about the Yong Heng compressor. This is my second update in about 4 years. I do love this compressor. I've been using it for about 5 years in total. But in today's video we're going to be talking about the oil I think you should be using, air dryers, oil and water separators. I have some one-way fill valves. These are SCBA, but they can apply to the DIN as well. And I have a special device. It's called an anti-vibration device, and this is by a friend of mine, Scott Allen. It's a prototype that I have, but I'll show it to you in action. And lastly, I'll talk to you about why just my opinion, but why I love the Yong Heng compressor as a value compressor, and things you can do to keep this compressor running smoothly for as long as possible. But before we get into the details of today's video, I did just briefly want to mention a YouTube channel I came across, 518 Fishing. This is Andrew, Emily, and the gang. They do a lot of river fishing, lake fishing, upstate New York, and they have some giveaways, tips and tricks, and a lot of unscripted action in their footage, which is pretty interesting. So if you get a chance, check them out, subscribe. It's a pretty interesting channel. But for now, let's get on to the Yong Heng compressor and the update. The first update I really want to bring to you is the type of oil that you're using in your compressor. Now, it's really funny that Yong Heng, in their old and their, here you can see it there, new manuals, the new manual has gotten better, but they're still recommending this ISO or AW46 hydraulic oil. And it is not really meant for it's meant for a closed system. And you'll get so much carbon buildup on the top of your high pressure piston here that it will just cease to work, and it will smell. You'll get carbon deposit. So after doing a lot of research, I realized there's got to be something better. And that something better could be royal purple. Now, some people are using royal purple. I did try that. It is better than hydraulic oil, AW or ISO 46, but it still smelled and I was still getting buildup. So I switched over about a year ago, maybe a little more, to a diester oil. Here's Secco Lube 500. There's also Nuvair 751. These are very good choices, much better than something like royal purple or hydraulic oil, which is absolutely terrible in these compressors. I mean, it's great for a closed system, but not for something like reciprocating items such as what's happening in the Yong Heng compressor. So anyway, these diester oils, which are dibasic acid ester oils, they have very high, excellent oxidative and thermal stability, as well as they're very soluble. Because they're soluble, they do not create deposits and buildup on the high-end piston. I just wanted to bring to light the item of the type of oil you're using in your compressor. Again, if you have something that you're using that's better than this, please let me know. Drop a comment. I'm always willing to learn and see if we can get better at making these compressors work even better and have more longevity. And using the right kind of oil will definitely help. The second item I have for update is the air dryer or oil and water separator. Now, they're really two different things, but a lot of people use them interchangeably. This was an air dryer. This was one of the first items I had made that you saw in my second update. This is the third. This is the molecular sieve, packed really tight inside of a PVC tube so as not to damage the walls of this tuxting, I guess, canister. Now, this had worked well for a while, but it really is a pain in the neck because you have to, after a while, the molecular sieve doesn't last forever. You can only dry it out so many times before it doesn't becomes ineffective. So anyway, I have stopped using this gold filter. And also, something interesting about these Chinese, I'm not going to call them cheap, just like I'm not going to call this compressor cheap, because a lot of items that are made in China are very good. Are they made to different standards? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But these items I have seen on one of the forums where, not this tuxting brand, because this is branded, I don't know if that makes it better, I mean, the walls are very thick on this, but I still, you know, it doesn't matter how thick it is, it's what material it's made out of and how it's made. Someone had shown one of these, not this particular brand here, but another type that had ruptured. They don't explode, they rupture. Either way, it's very dangerous. And it was one of a non-branded version. So I just say be really careful about what you're buying when you're buying either on eBay or Amazon. Try to stick with name brands, or know the material it's made out of, or just stick with vendors that you can trust. Like we do have here in America, we have you know, Joe Brancato. He sells a lot of quality items, and Air Tanks Plus, they do as well. So two good vendors. That being said, I actually have retired this type of water air dryer. What I've moved on to is this type of water separator. Maybe even oil, water and oil separator. I think they call it an ACD, auto condensate drain. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. And I have taken this apart. I just recently, I've been using this for about 4 or 5 months, and I was very curious to see how the inside looked. You know, is there any corrosion? You really want to kind of inspect these every few months, check the threads, check the inside wall, make sure everything is looking good. So I'm trying to be really, really careful. Here are some photos of the inside before I take this out. Check out, here's the inside. If you think you're not getting water in your system, check out this photo. See that, all that water? And now here it is after I've cleaned it up. So now that you've seen that, here's what this one looks like on the inside. It basically, so air goes in the top here, water collects right here, drops down to the bottom, and then non-moist air will then come out through this end here. Okay. Now I do feel a lot better about this product as I've checked reviews, other people using it. I bought this on Amazon. It does seem to be very good quality. Again, you're not so concerned. Again, can you be 100% sure? No, but you do want to inspect it visually. Make sure that nothing looks really out of place or really suspect, because if it does, stop using it. You know, buy something else, or, you know, get a new one. That's what I do. I have found that this has been working I'm very pleased with this for now. I do wish that the fitting up here were made of stainless steel, because it is starting to rust on the inside, and I might swap out this elbow here for a 6,000 pound. Everything you use, by the way, I like rated at least 5,000 pounds because we do go to 4,500. You do technically go up to 4,350 or so with the Yong Heng. So you want to make sure everything's rated for about 5,000 and 5,000 PSI, and you could feel confident that that will work well. And it should be, I really think it should be stainless steel, since we are dealing with moisture. So if you're interested in switching over from the molecular sieve to this ACD type of drain, then here's a link. I'll have a link in the description, but here's where I got it on Amazon. Again, I generally don't put links because they do change so often, but I'll do it because I know so many people do request it. I've now filled up the second tank. I did that off camera, but what I want to show you is I'm still concerned that there's water inside this water separator. Everything is off. This is still running cool. I'm going to use this lock. It's a plug. It's a quick Foster plug. Goes on the end here. Maybe you're seeing it there. Okay, and that locks up the air. What we're going to do is I've bled it. The second time I bled it from the machine, and a little bit from here. So I'm going to run it a little bit, get the pressure up just a touch, and slowly bleed from the water separator, okay? And no air can escape because the end is plugged. So let's get it running. Let it build up a little bit. And that's it. So now, I already did this a few times before, but I wanted, there's still a little bit of moisture. I just wanted you to see it. It was actually shooting out. So now it's done. You can safely remove this, and now you know the system is purged of water. The next update is a real exciting one. I really love these. I mean, everyone loves shiny metal. So anyway, this was the one-way fill valve that I was originally using. This had a brass CGA347 with a T and a bleed valve, as well as a Foster, one-way Foster. There is a one-way check valve inside of here that only allows air to come in and not out. So when you attach this to your tank, your SCBA tank, or your DIN tank, if you have a Scuba tank, you'll just have a different fitting on this end here. When you open the tank and you close the bleed valve here, air will fill this little chamber and not escape. Now, when you connect your Yong Heng or any compressor to the Foster here, once the air reaches or equalizes the air in the tank, in the SCBA tank or your Scuba tank, this one-way valve will open and air will start rushing in, okay? So if there is some kind of catastrophic failure or your compressor starts to leak, you won't lose all the air in your tank. What'll end up happening is the air pressure on this side will decrease and will shut off. The check valve will push against the Foster fill here and shut everything off, and the air will be contained. Then you can shut off your SCBA tank or your diving tank, whatever it is you have, and then bleed the air out safely. And remember, you do have to have a bleed if you use a one-way check valve here, because God forbid you don't have a bleed and you open up your SCBA tank and fill that with air. How are you going to let the air escape? Don't do it. If you're going to make these one-way fill valves on your own, just make sure everything is rated to at least 4,500 working pressure, more like 5,000 or 6,000, and you can be confident that you've got the right product. So here I then made a second one. This one is a stainless steel CGA347 with a 6,000 PSI bleed valve, as well as a reducer and a Foster fitting. Again, these Foster fittings, I get mine from either IORMAN on Amazon or Captain O-Ring. Again, I'm not sponsored. I'm just telling you what I buy. I don't care what you buy. Just make sure you buy the right thing that's good and safe. Many of my fittings that I buy from Titan Fittings. You can buy from any quality hydraulic company, parts company, fittings company that that they say these are rated for 5,000 to 6,000 pounds working pressure, and then you can feel confident. Now, this pretty one here, which is very lightweight, I purchased this from Air Tanks Plus for about 80 bucks. It is very lightweight. It's pretty cool. It does have the hand tighten. See, these two here, they have you need to tighten it with a wrench, while this one is hand tighten, has a little O-ring. These are just metal up against metal. Each one is fine. I mean, it depends. Again, the O-ring sometimes has to be changed. What's great about these, there's no O-ring, so you're fitting it up. It has a taper, and it fits right into the CGA347. Again, just a matter of preference. This is very convenient. It's lightweight. And by the way, even one of the parts on here says China. Now, is that a bad thing? No, it's fine. A lot of good parts are made in China, and I guess, they're using this to keep the cost down. And, again, 80 bucks for this one-way, and there's a one-way fill valve, is pretty damn good. And the other thing is, if you're going to make your own, now, by the way, none of this, I didn't put these together yet because I wanted to explain something. So these are all loose here. So I'm going to show you I'm going to put this one aside. This is the stainless steel. This is all stainless steel, okay? So you see the four parts right here. CGA347, bleed valve. This thing is a beast. This is a reducing nut, and this is your Foster fill. By the way, all of this is NPT. So this is quarter NPT going to quarter NPT. NPT is National Pipe Taper, or thread. I think they call it thread, but National Pipe Taper. This here is a quarter to eighth reducer, because what comes out of the bleed is 1/4 inch NPT. And then here, and you can actually, if you look at it, you can see that it's tapered. The threads are tapered. They're not straight. It's really cool. So anyway, if you're going to be putting this together yourself, there's one thing I do want to mention to you. What you want to do is make sure you insert, and make sure it goes about 3 or 4 turns, hand tight, and then you're going to go another 3, roughly 1.5 to 3 full turns it's going to be really tight. So what happens with taper is they basically, the threads crush each other. They kind of, not crush, but they grind into each other. You need that Teflon tape or Mega tape to lubricate as well as seal. So again, it's going to be quite tight if you're going to be tightening it, but you do need to have at least 1.5 to 3. So I would say 2 full turns and you're pretty good. And one thing about NPT threads, you really don't want to keep connecting and disconnecting them because they become less effective. You know, I noticed once, you know, when I had taken this one apart, little metal shavings came out, and that is the threads grinding against each other, even though I used Teflon tape or Mega tape, whatever you decide to use. So really, once you put it together, don't take it apart. But again, if you don't feel comfortable putting together your own, again, just buy it. You know, again, I'm very happy with this. Now, the last item, and the most important and most interesting item, is the Scott Allen anti-vibration device. That's the thing right here over my shoulder. Instead of bringing it down here and showing it to you, I'm going to show it to you in action so you can see how it works. It's really quite amazing. The benefits are really numerous. You get to actually be able to read your manometer while it's working. It keeps all the bolts from shaking loose. It will definitely extend the life of your compressor just because there's not all that vibration happening to it. It's really easy to move as well, and you can add components to it like I did with the air dryer. I just kind of drilled a little hole on the side and attached it. It's really nice and convenient, tight, and I just roll it around the garage, get it out of the way, put it under a table when I'm done. But here, check out the footage on the actual use of the Scott Allen anti-vibration device. So we're going to top off this 88 cubic foot tank that is at 3,100 PSI right now. We're going to take it to about 4,250, which is the 30 MPa or 300 bar that the compressor is rated to. Let's connect. This is my one-way quick disconnect Foster with the bleed valve. All right, let's snug that down. Okay, you don't have to kill it. So we're going to connect the new, this is a Foster quick disconnect. That's going to go here. Bleed valves are all open. I have 3 bleed valves here. We're going to fill this up with water. I'm just using tap water. Now, here I have, this is I believe a 2.5 gallon bucket, and I fill it up with water, put it in my freezer. We're just going to turn it upside down, push it down, and I have a solid block of ice here. Whew, it's cold. Going to put that in the water. All right. And what you also can do is I use these freezer packs, and I'm going to drop one of those in there, maybe 2 of those in there. It helps keep the water really cold, and you really want it to be as cold as possible. Now, I'm not going to start running the pump just yet because I don't want the high pressure cylinder to start to cool up. Because what happens when you cool metal, it tightens down, right? It enlarges. So what happens is you're going to have that cold block tightening down on the piston and probably slow. Remember, this motor, I don't think it has a lot of torque. We're going to start it with all the valves open, no water going through, and then we'll start the water. We'll probably try to start them at the same time. We'll also be timing how long it takes to top off this 88 cubic foot tank, again, using the Yong Heng compressor. So let's get to it. Okay, going to tighten down my quick disconnect as well as the water separator. I'm going to leave the 2 on the Yong Heng open. We're going to open, you got to open this first. Remember, it's a one-way. Okay, and here we go. All right, so I just bled out the air. The air will not release. I didn't close this yet. So here I am closing it. Now I bleed the air. That's the one-way valve in here. Show you that it takes about 13 minutes to top off the tank, maybe 15 minutes tops. And every now and again, you want to check this water separator to make sure that all the water is out of it. There's no corrosion, no pitting, that the threads are good and intact. Because remember, if they're not, you have possibly a rupture. I don't want to say explosion, but that's what happens. So the Scott Allen anti-vibration device that you just saw is a prototype. That was just something Scott was kind enough to give to me. This was just among friends. And I told him, you know, this thing works so well. It's pretty interesting. And again, I get nothing for this. I'm just trying to help someone with a great product, as is all of this video content. Nothing is sponsored. It is just me trying to tell you what I use, what I like, and I hope to help you guys. So anyway, if you're interested in the Scott Allen, I don't know what else to call it, the Scott Allen anti-vibration device, if Scott said if there's interest in it, he'll look to take this beyond prototyping and possibly offering it up. I have a brief update from Scott Allen. I did mention to him that I would be showcasing his anti-vibration or dampening device in this video with the Yong Heng. He did mention that he has a new version that he's planning to make. He did write to me and says, he said it would use opposing poles on rare earth magnets. The opposing poles would allow the plate that the compressor is resting on to levitate. So it would probably dampen vibration 100%, I guess, in theory, as he says. If there is enough interest, I'm sure he'll make this second version. If he does make it and he does send it my way, I will definitely review it and let you guys know about it. I will leave a link to contact Scott Allen. I believe it's DampeningDevice@gmail.com in the description below, so that you guys can contact him directly and ask him any questions, or, you know, maybe give him some input. So I just wanted to add that late-breaking development into this video before I released it. So if you're interested, drop him a line or put something in the comments, whatever. Again, that is the anti-vibration device. Now, on to the last item. Little things that I have noticed over time using this compressor. This is the new one. I just used this yesterday, and it was so interesting. I usually keep the bleed and the oil bleed here. One is for air bleed and one's for oil and water. I had the oil and water tight, but the bleed was open, and I started the compressor, and surprisingly, it was struggling. It was like bump, 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 bump. It was just going at a constant pace for about 10-15 seconds. And I was like, what's going on? So I opened the bleed, and all of a sudden the piston started running quickly at normal RPM. And I was really surprised that having the oil tighten down was preventing the piston from going. So kind of tells me that this motor doesn't have a lot of torque. It's really momentum that keeps it going. So there's been a lot of controversy about, oh, should I start it, all the valves open and then start the compressor and then close everything, close the air and close the bleed, the oil bleed. I would say yes, because that's been my experience. Again, a lot less stress on the. I can't believe it couldn't get started just because the bleed was tightened. I guess it was creating enough air pressure that the piston was having a hard time going up and down. But once it gets its momentum, it's no problem. Another item I've learned is that because I run ice water, I have a big block of ice, as you might have seen in the video, and this gets really cold. So I try to start the ice just seconds before I start the compressor, so that this upper cylinder here with that ice cold water doesn't compress around the piston. Because if you can imagine, it gets really cold and it starts to tighten down. When you make something cold, it gets tight. When you heat it up, it expands. So again, just my theory that if you run it cold, really cold, and then try to start it, that's more friction. So anyway, that's just another item. Something else I've noticed over time is that, it's pretty obvious. Like, I can top off an 88 cubic foot tank from 3,000 to about 4,300 PSI in somewhere right now with this one, around 9 to 12 minutes. Let's just say 12 minutes. Let me not exaggerate. So it's about 12 minutes. This one, towards the end, it was taking like 20 minutes to top off the same tank. And that's because, again, the piston was wearing, the O-rings are wearing out. It's just natural. So again, what I found is try to run this in 15-minute intervals. That's, at least for me, I know they say 30 minutes, but I found that 15 minutes, this one was running really well. I wasn't pushing it hard. I mean, it went for about little more than 2 years. And it went well. I never run it more than 15 minutes at a time. Great for topping off bottles. Is this good going from 0 to 4,500 on an 88 cubic foot tank? I would say don't do it that often. If you have to, do it in short intervals. 20 minutes stop, 20 minutes stop, something like that. Because it's not a lot of pressure to start with, but it's a lot of run time. So you kind of want to give it a chance to cool off. And I mean, I guess it's going to wear out either way. But again, I would just recommend 15-minute intervals. Another item for controversy is how you shut down your Yong Heng. I know there are auto stop versions that the compressor just stops with all the pressure in the lines, and there is a check valve on the top that prevents air from pushing back on the piston. But again, I'm sure that's okay because that's the way they're made. I just have a tendency, the way I like doing it is I'll let it run and bleed the air and quickly shut it off. Now, some people say, oh, what about revving high RPM? No, because when you start it, you're running at that RPM. The RPM doesn't increase when there's, when you start it, that's a normal RPM. It takes time to build pressure. So as long as you don't let it run too long with no pressure against it, it's going to be just fine. The only time I ever pulled the plug on the Yong Heng with air in it was when I was running, the last time I was running this one, before it broke a few months ago, was when this top piston broke, and I heard the resonance that it changed, and I can tell something was wrong, and it was really struggling, so I quickly unplugged it. That's what I do. I keep it, like, this is not an auto shut off. The way I auto shut off is by unplugging it if something catastrophic happens. And it did, and I was able to stop it, and there was still air in the line, and I bled the air out. It was fine, so if you have to, you have to. One reason I really like these Yong Heng compressors so much is that it's really not a complicated item to work on. Even with all the supply chains of 2021, even probably into 2022, I was able to get a replacement piston, right here, in a matter of 2 weeks. I was so surprised. I thought it was going to take at least 6 weeks before I got it. I was surprised. It took a little more than 2 weeks. I think it took like 20 days. Again, I'm just going to repair this, replace the broken piston. I was just originally going to replace just the top piece here. Well, it's not even I was going to just replace the high end, part of the piston. But you know what? It was cheaper just to get the whole thing. It was like only a few bucks more. And I'm just going to replace the whole entire piston. It also came with the gaskets, because you do need to replace the gaskets here. This part I didn't take apart, so that gasket will stay. These compressors are really easy to work on, and the parts are pretty much available. Yes, you have to go to AliExpress. There are some local vendors, but I noticed local vendors were charging a lot more. I'm not sure why, but it was. So anyway, I went to Ali, and it came pretty quick. I was pretty happy about that. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative and helpful and entertaining and all that good stuff. See you soon in the next video.